There is a season in life that arrives quietly. You don't see it coming. You're simply going about your days, doing what you've always done, providing, guiding, listening, when one morning you notice something has shifted. Your daughter doesn't ask your opinion anymore. She asks her friends instead. Your son dismisses your concerns with a wave of his hand, as if you are someone he's learned to politely ignore. And perhaps the most painful, they no longer seem to need you in the way they once did. If you've arrived at this place, if you've spent decades raising children, sacrificing for them, believing all along that love and loyalty would be enough, then what I'm about to share with you is not just advice. It's a doorway. Because here is what most people don't understand. The distance between a parent and adult child isn't always about love. It's about respect. And respect is something you can reclaim. But not the way you think. For decades, the culture has told us that if we give enough, sacrifice enough, remain patient enough, our children will naturally honor us. They'll call. They'll visit. They'll listen. But life has shown us something different. What if the solution wasn't to give more, but to ask for less? What if respect isn't earned through endless devotion, but through something far more elegant, the quiet power of self-respect? This is the story of how you reclaim it. Not through anger, not through confrontation, but through a transformation so subtle, so profound, that your children won't even realize they're seeing you differently. They'll simply know, this person commands respect. Let me tell you what neuroscience has discovered about the parent-child dynamic, because understanding why this happens is the first step to changing it. In 2015, researchers at Harvard University conducted what became known as the Harvard Happiness Study. For over 80 years, they tracked the lives of people, some born poor, some born wealthy, and asked a simple question: what makes a life meaningful? What makes us happy? The answer surprised everyone. It wasn't money. It wasn't achievement. It was relationship. Specifically, it was relationships built on mutual respect and genuine presence. But here's what they discovered about family dynamics. When there's an imbalance of emotional dependence, the respect disappears. Think of it like a scale. On one side, you place your emotional needs, the hope that your children will call, will visit, will validate you. On the other side, you place your self-sufficiency, your own joy, your own sense of purpose. When one side grows too heavy, the scale tips. And once it tips, your children feel the weight of that dependency. They don't feel love from it. They feel burden. This is what neurobiologists call emotional reciprocity. It's the unspoken agreement that healthy relationships require. I care for myself so that I can genuinely care for you, not the other way around. Your children sense this on a deeply intuitive level. They may not have words for it, but they know. There's also something else at play, something called neuroplasticity. Your brain, even at 70 or 80 years old, is still capable of creating new neural pathways. You can literally rewire how you respond to disrespect. You can retrain yourself to stand firm, to say no, to build boundaries. This isn't willpower. It's neuroscience. And finally, there's what researchers call the blue zones phenomenon, the study of places where people live the longest, healthiest lives. Places like Okinawa, Japan, and the island of Sardinia. What did these communities have in common? Elders weren't defined by their children. They had purpose beyond their families. They were gardeners, storytellers, teachers, mentors to their communities. They were indispensable not to their kids, but to their lives. And their families respected them immensely. So the science is clear: respect returns when dependency leaves. Purpose replaces desperation. Self-sufficiency becomes magnetic. This is what we're going to explore, not as tips, but as transformations. I want to tell you about a woman named Eleanor. Not the famous Eleanor you might know, though her story echoes similar themes, but a different Eleanor. A real one. A woman who lived in Connecticut, born in 1923, and who faced the exact problem you're facing right now. Eleanor had 2 children, a son and a daughter. She loved them fiercely. And as she grew older, particularly after her husband passed in her 60s, she began to feel that love slip away. Not the love from her heart, but the respect from their eyes. Her daughter would call less. Her son would cut visits short. When Eleanor tried to offer advice, They'd smile politely and do exactly what they wanted anyway. 4 years, Eleanor did what so many of us do. She doubled down. She called them more. She offered financial help they hadn't asked for. She rearranged her life around their schedules. She kept her opinions locked away, telling herself that peace was more important than honesty. What she was really doing was disappearing. By her mid-70s, Eleanor found herself waiting. Always waiting. For a phone call. For a visit. For the moment when her children would need her again and suddenly see her value. But something shifted when Eleanor was 78 years old. Her best friend, a woman named Ruth, who was only a few years older, suffered a stroke. Eleanor spent 3 months caring for Ruth. Helping her walk. Reading to her. Cooking for her. Being fully present, not out of obligation, but out of genuine commitment. During that time, Eleanor made no calls to her children. She sent no messages asking when they might visit. She simply disappeared into her purpose. When Eleanor returned to her life, the first thing she did was something radical. She joined a book club. She volunteered at the local library, cataloging rare editions, a skill she'd had since childhood but never pursued. She took a painting class. Not because she was talented. Because she wanted to try. She made plans with friends. Real plans. Important plans. Plans that didn't revolve around whether her children could fit her into their schedules. And then, without any intention on Eleanor's part, without any manipulation, something happened. Her daughter called. Not out of obligation. But because she wanted to know about the painting class. Her son visited. Not because he felt guilty. But because he heard Eleanor's laugh in the background during a phone call and he wanted to see where that was coming from. By the time Eleanor was in her mid-80s, her relationship with both her children had transformed. Not because they suddenly felt guilty. Not because she demanded anything. But because Eleanor had become someone they genuinely wanted to spend time with. She was no longer waiting. She was living. Here is what Eleanor understood, and what I want you to understand. Respect isn't something you can demand from your children because you raised them. Respect is earned when your children see that you have a life that matters beyond them. It's earned when you stop performing the role of the needy parent and start embodying the role of the fulfilled adult. It's earned through what Eleanor discovered, that the secret to regaining your children's respect was to stop needing it so desperately. The irony, of course, is that once you stop needing it, it comes back. Let me give you 6 specific shifts you need to make. Not tips. Not tactics. These are philosophical shifts, changes in how you see yourself and your role. Truth 1. Stop chasing their approval. The moment you stop trying to keep them happy is the moment they start respecting you. This is counterintuitive. We're taught that parents sacrifice. And yes, when your children are young, sacrifice is necessary. But somewhere around their late 20s or 30s, that dynamic must shift. If you're still rearranging your life to accommodate them. If you're still saying yes when you mean no. If you're still bending in ways that hurt, then they're learning something terrible. That your needs don't matter. Once they believe that, it's nearly impossible for them to respect you. So here's what you do. You gently, calmly begin to prioritize yourself. When they ask you to do something, you don't immediately say yes. You say, "Let me see if that works for me." When they dismiss your opinion, you don't repeat it louder. You simply say, "That's what I think." You'll do what you'll do. When they speak to you disrespectfully, you don't accept it. You pause. You look them in the eye. And you say, "I love you, but I won't be spoken to that way." This is not anger. This is clarity. And clarity is what creates respect. Truth 2. Lead through presence, not through words. Frank was a high school principal for 40 years. He ran his school with quiet authority. Teachers respected him. Students listened. He didn't raise his voice. He simply was authoritative. But at home, with his adult children, he felt powerless. So he did what many of us do. He tried to prove his authority through words. He argued. He explained why they were wrong. He reminded them of all he'd done. And with each argument, he lost more ground. Then Frank made a simple change. He stopped arguing. Instead, When his children were disrespectful or dismissive, he simply held his ground. He didn't fight back. He didn't lecture. He just didn't move. When his son interrupted him, Frank would pause, look at his son calmly, and say, "I'm still talking." When his daughter dismissed his concerns, Frank would nod and say, "I hear you, and I hope you'll hear me too." He didn't try to win arguments. He simply refused to be trampled. And his children began to respect him in a way they never did when he was fighting. Because fighting implied desperation. It implied he needed them to agree with him. But standing calmly while they disagreed? That implied something different. It implied he was secure enough to let them be wrong. This is the shift. Lead through your presence, not your arguments. Your dignity speaks louder than your words ever will. Truth 3. Release your emotional dependence. This is perhaps the hardest truth, and I want to say it gently. You cannot depend on your children to make you feel valuable. You cannot depend on their calls to make you feel loved. You cannot depend on their approval to know your life mattered. These dependencies, even though they feel like love, are actually burdens you're placing on their shoulders. When you need them to call so that you feel valued, they feel the weight of that need. When you wait by the phone hoping they'll reach out, they sense the desperation. When you say, "I miss you so much," hoping they'll visit more, you're actually pushing them away. Because now, their presence isn't a choice. It's a responsibility. And resentment grows in the soil of responsibility. So here's what you do instead. You learn to fill your own cup. You stop waiting for them to make you feel valued, and you start making yourself feel valued. You join groups. You volunteer. You pursue interests that have nothing to do with your children. You become, quite literally, less dependent on them. And the moment you do, the moment they sense that you're okay without them, they relax. The pressure releases. And they suddenly want to be around you. Not out of guilt, but because you've become someone interesting to be around. You're someone with a life. Truth 4. Set boundaries and defend them. Most parents never set boundaries with their adult children because it feels selfish. It isn't. Boundaries aren't walls. They're the structure that allows respect to exist. If you allow your children to interrupt you without consequence, dismiss your feelings without response, criticize your life choices without pushback, take your time for granted without appreciation, then you are teaching them that you don't matter. And if you don't seem to matter, why should they respect you? So boundaries aren't cruel. They're necessary. Here's how this works. When your daughter interrupts you, you calmly say, "I'm not finished yet. Please wait your turn." When your son criticizes your decisions, you say, "I appreciate your perspective, but I'm comfortable with my choices." When they expect you to drop everything for them, you say, "I can help you on Tuesday, but not today." And crucially, you follow through. If you set a boundary and then don't defend it, the boundary has no power. But if you calmly, consistently maintain your boundaries, something shifts. Your children begin to respect you because you clearly respect yourself. Truth 5. Give consciously, not compulsively. One of the fastest ways to lose respect is to give to people who don't appreciate it. And as parents, we do this constantly. We give money we don't have. We give time we need for ourselves. We give emotional energy even when we're depleted. And we give all of this hoping that gratitude will return. Hoping that appreciation will show us we mattered. But here's the psychological reality. When you give to someone who doesn't acknowledge it, you don't build connection. You build resentment, in them and in you. They stop seeing your generosity as a gift. They start seeing it as a given. And you start resenting the fact that they take it for granted. So here's the shift. You stop giving reflexively. You give consciously, with clear expectations. When your son asks for money, instead of automatically transferring it, you might say, "I can help, but I want to understand what you need and what your plan is. Let's talk about it." When your daughter asks for your help, you check your own needs first. "I'd like to help. Let me see what I have available." And crucially, when you do give, you allow yourself to receive thanks. You don't brush it off. You don't say, "It's nothing." You say, "You're welcome. I'm glad I could help." This teaches your children that your generosity matters. That it's not an endless well. That it's a gift, not an entitlement. And when generosity is treated as a gift, it's deeply respected. Truth 6. Build a life that needs them less. This is the paradox that Eleanor discovered. The moment you stop needing your children to feel whole is the moment they want to be part of your wholeness. Think about it. Your children respect people in their lives who have their own purpose. Their friends who are building something. Their colleagues who are pursuing passions. Their mentors who have something to teach. But if they see you as someone sitting at home, waiting for them to call, respect becomes difficult. Not because you don't deserve it, but because you're not embodying the qualities they respect in other people. So you build a life, not to spite them, not to punish them, but because you deserve it. You find activities that bring you joy. Not retirement activities, though those are fine, but real pursuits. Things that matter to you. Maybe you volunteer as a mentor to young people. Maybe you take up an art form you've always wanted to explore. Maybe you travel somewhere you've always dreamed of. Maybe you start a small business. Maybe you write. Maybe you become an expert in something. The point is, you become a person with a full life. And your children will see that. They'll see you engaged. They'll see you growing. They'll see you alive. And they won't be able to help but respect that. I want to return to something I said at the beginning. Your children not respecting you is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of a dynamic that needs to shift. And that shift, it begins entirely with you. Not with demanding more from them. Not with giving more of yourself. But with becoming someone who commands respect through the simple act of respecting yourself. There's a line from the Stoic philosopher Epictetus that I think about often. No one can rob you of your free will. Your children cannot take your dignity unless you give it to them. They cannot diminish your worth unless you believe it. But they also cannot truly respect you until you refuse to beg for their respect. The respect you're seeking isn't out of reach. It's not something you need to earn through years of more sacrifice. It's something you reclaim the moment you decide. My life matters. My boundaries matter. My joy matters. And I will no longer shrink myself hoping that my smallness will make them love me. The paradox, the beautiful, counterintuitive paradox, is that the moment you truly believe that, your children will believe it too. I want to offer you a reflection question, not to answer for me, but to sit with yourself. What would change in your life if you stopped needing your children's respect and started demanding it of yourself? Think about that. Because the answer to that question is the path forward. Your children didn't fall out of respect for you because you failed them. They lost respect because the dynamic shifted into something that bred neither respect nor genuine connection. But that can change. Not overnight. Not without discomfort. But it can change. So as you go forward, remember these 6 truths. Stop chasing their approval. Start respecting yourself. Led through presence, not words, your dignity speaks louder. Release your emotional dependence. Fill your own cup first. Set boundaries and defend them. You matter. Give consciously. Your generosity is a gift, not a guarantee. Build a life outside of them. People respect those who have purpose. Do these things, and something remarkable will happen. Your children won't just start respecting you. They'll start seeing you. And there is no greater gift than to be truly seen by those we love. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Your attention is precious, and I honor it. I'd love to hear from you. In the comments below, share one moment when you realized the dynamic with your child had shifted. Share one thing you're willing to try this week to reclaim your respect and your peace. Your stories matter. Your voices matter. Your lives matter. If this resonated with you, please like this video. Subscribe so you don't miss our next reflection. And share this with someone in your life who needs to hear it. Because this conversation, about dignity, about boundaries, about building lives that matter, is one we need to keep having. We need to remind each other that we're not just parents. We're people. And our lives don't end when our children grow up. They transform. Here's to your transformation.